After 7 years of marriage, Ivy inherited billions in assets, but during the handover process with the lawyer, she was informed that the marriage certificate was fake. The billions in assets could only be inherited by her alone. After investigating the matter, the lawyer spoke a name, Mr. Fabian S. registered spouse is Judy, and you are currently unmarried. City Y knows that Ivy and Fabian were betrothed before birth. Ivy is Fabian S. heart's blood, the apple of his eye. At the time of their wedding, Fabian gave Ivy a wedding of the century, and he vowed loudly, I, Fabian, will never betray Ivy. Yet his marriage certificate with Judy was actually obtained the day after their wedding. Ivy smiled self-mockingly, taking a long while to accept this fact, and then her phone received a text message. Ivy, I bought you the latest bag you love the most. The plane has landed. I'll go to the company first and come back to accompany you right away. I love you. Today is the day Fabian returns from his business trip. In fact, Ivy was waiting for him outside the airport at this moment. Watching the two people coming out of the airport, she clenched her fists. Not far away, Fabian put his phone into his trench coat pocket, held Judy's nape, and the two kissed passionately. Over here, Ivy's face was already covered in tears. It turns out Fabian could say he loved her while kissing another woman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. Looking at Fabian in the distance, Ivy recalled all the moments they had shared. The two had been childhood sweethearts. In middle school, her parents had planned to take Ivy abroad to live, but when Fabian found out, he knelt at Frances's house for 7 days. Before he passed out, he tightly held her hand and said, Ivy, you can't leave. In this lifetime, you are mine. I absolutely won't allow you to go so far away from me. Throughout middle school and high school, year after year, everyone around them knew that Ivy was Fabian's treasure. After the college entrance exams, Fabian stayed with her in City B. Wherever Ivy is, I, Fabian, will be there. Once we reach the legal age, Ivy and I will get our marriage certificate. Indeed, they held their wedding when they were 22, but she never imagined that Fabian, who loved her so much, would scheme against her so thoroughly in this marriage. He said he would have the lawyer go to the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day to handle the marriage certificate, as he felt sorry for her exhaustion on their wedding night. She and Fabian have known each other since birth. They were never apart for 27 years and had long since committed to each other. Yet the outcome was Fabian secretly marrying another woman behind her back. He occupied her entire life. And at this moment Ivy decided that even if it meant tearing away half of herself, she would completely remove Fabian from the rest of her life. Ivy did not go home but instead went to a lawyer to handle asset inheritance. The Francis family's entire assets were all under her name, including the Humphrey family shares that Fabian had transferred to her before his marriage. The lawyer confirmed with Ivy once again, Ms. Ivy, are you really sure you want to sell all the Francis family assets under your name? Yes, City Y Francis family properties. Not a single property will be left. Ivy signed several contracts within half a day, selling half of the Francis family assets. The other half has been contacted by buyers from out of town who cannot come immediately, but they have agreed to quickly prepare funds in the coming days to come to City Y and sign with her. The lawyer said it would take at most 7 days to process all the assets. Fabian, your betrayal, the pain you've caused me, let it all end within these 7 days. 3 hours later, Ivy returned to the marital home she shared with Fabian. Fabian fixed his cold eyes on Ivy. Ivy, where have you been? Your phone was off. I waited for you for 2 whole hours. Do you have any idea how worried I was? Ivy looked at Fabian again, her mind replaying the image of Fabian at the airport. His arm wrapped around Judy, lowering his head to kiss Judy. Once upon a time, how much she loved Fabian kissing her. Now she finds it just as disgusting. Fabian couldn't hear Ivy's response, so he got up and walked toward Ivy. Ivy, you know what I dislike the most is when you go somewhere without telling me your whereabouts. Was the previous punishment not enough? The next second, Fabian's large hand tightly gripped Ivy's slender waist. Ivy's body remained stiff and motionless, her curled eyelashes trembling slightly. The scent of tobacco on him had always fascinated her the most, making her feel at ease, but now it felt dangerous. Fabian's domineering nature and possessiveness toward her, she knew it all too well. At the age of 20, after arguing with him, she ran off to climb a mountain with her classmates. Fabian went mad, mobilizing helicopters across the city and searching every mountain just to find her. And the first thing he did upon finding her was to lock her in his apartment, relentlessly demanding her. For a whole month, she cried and begged him, but he never let her go, until she kept promising, kept swearing, that she would never disappear and make him worry again. After that, Ivy was afraid of Fabian and promised him that no matter how much they argued, She would never dare to pull a disappearing act again. At this moment, Fabian lifted her chin with his slender fingers. Ivy, speak up. Do you really want me to punish you? Ivy had a trace of panic in her eyes. If he found out she was preparing to leave him for good, he would probably go completely mad, not wanting to alert the enemy. Ivy said in a trembling voice, I just went to the hospital. She is pregnant, 2 months along. Fabian, upon hearing the word hospital, his eyes instantly darkened. He kissed Ivy's forehead, his voice lowered deeply. Ivy, I know you still want to have a child with me. But your fertility is 0. We've tried for so many years, that's enough. I only need you. My life won't have regrets. Don't go to the hospital anymore. I don't want you to go through that pain again. She had tried IVF no less than 20 times, yet never once became pregnant. She received countless fertility shots, her arms swollen from the injections, but it had no effect at all. A moment later, Fabian's phone rang. Ivy watched as his thick, dark eyebrows furrowed slightly. And the man ruffled her hair with his hand. Honey, let's not fuss about having kids anymore. Ivy is my treasure. We can be dinks for life. Baby, I have to go out for something urgent. Be good and stay at home. Don't go anywhere or run around and make me worry, or I'll really get angry. Fabian didn't wait for her reply before eagerly leaving. Ivy smiled bitterly. Someone was clearly waiting for him outside, so did he come back just to see if she was home? Half an hour later, Ivy received an audio recording from an unfamiliar number. Fabian, Judy is really pregnant. Yes, 3 months along. Ivy can't have children, but our family needs an heir. My grandfather is pressuring me hard. That Avatar is his friend. Fabian, back then you insisted on Ivy, and only then did old Mr. Humphrey allow you to give Ivy the sterilization drug, and he even forbade you from getting a marriage certificate with her. Now that things have come to this, what do you plan to do next? Didn't you say you loved Ivy the most? Ivy instantly turned pale. What? Sterilization drug? Fabian not only cheated but also gave her a sterilization drug. Ivy, her body ached with a heart-wrenching pain, and her mind drifted back to the night of their wedding. Fabian brought her a bowl of traditional Chinese medicine. Ivy, this is a tonic my family elders said helps with conception. If you drink it on your wedding night, it'll work right away, after you finish it. You're not allowed to cry later. Back then, she lay shyly in his arms, while Fabian fed her every last sip of the medicinal soup. It turns out, from the very beginning, he never intended for her to have a child. On the recording, Fabian's voice sounded again. Of course, I love Ivy. Otherwise why would I have gotten Judy pregnant? Why would I set aside the blood feud between our families, just to be with Ivy? Back when my parents died in a car accident, it was because of Ivy's parents. All these years, I've tried hard to ignore it, treating her like a treasure, spoiling and cherishing her. Apart from children and marriage, which I can't give her, I can give her everything else, including the Humphrey family. Then what about Judy? Is she really just a breeding tool given to you by the old man? Fabian paused for a long time, and finally said, Judy has a calm and gentle nature. Being with her makes me feel comfortable and at peace, something Ivy could never give me. Fabian, it seems you want both the white moonlight and the red rose. Unable to listen any longer, Ivy turned off her phone, tears silently streaming down. It turns out she had never calmed Fabian's heart. Ivy slowly wiped away her tears. The message in the phone, no one knew who sent it. Ivy's trembling hand touched her abdomen. Yes, she couldn't bear his child. She still had another child to deal with. Then, Ivy made a phone call. Ivy, Junior, Hugh. Can your hospital schedule an additional surgery tomorrow morning? What kind? I'll help you contact the chief physician. Abortion. Late last night, Fabian left, and Ivy only received one message from him. Ivy, I won't be back tonight. Had too much to drink. I'll go straight to work tomorrow morning and come home in the evening. But the man who clearly said he was going to work, today Ivy came for an abortion, and he was also at the hospital. Fabian had his arm around Judy as they appeared on the floor of the obstetrics and gynecology department. Not far away, many people were waiting for checkups. In the crowd, Ivy saw Fabian shielding Judy in a corner. That overbearing manner was just like how he had once protected her. Judy looked up at Fabian and smiled. Fabian, I'm fine. The place is full of pregnant women. Don't be nervous. Fabian's deep voice was restrained. I told you to go to a private hospital. But you insisted on coming to a public one. What's so good about this place? Meanwhile, Judy's eyes dimmed as she said, Fabian, I'm just a servant's daughter, an ordinary person. I can't compare to you or MS. Ivy, public hospitals cost less, and I don't want to waste your money. Fabian's handsome profile was filled with tenderness and pity. Ivy only asks me for the most expensive, most unique things. One of her bags could cover 10 years of your salary. Ivy isn't as sensible as you. As he spoke, Fabian hugged Judy and kissed her hair. Meanwhile, Ivy, wearing a trench coat, hat, and mask, stood rigidly with her back turned to them. Sensible, how ironic. Fabian transferred all his shares in Humphrey family to her just before the wedding, and the one thing he said was, Ivy, Fabian, will only buy you the most expensive, the newest. My princess deserves to be pampered. Yet Ivy also heard another statement from Fabian, the maternity home is my parents' place. You'll go there to await the birth later. The green diamond bought at the auction, I've already had it made into a ring. This is the wedding ring I'm making up to you. Ivy, her curled eyelashes fluttered, and tears instantly blurred her vision. The green diamond, once upon a time, it was she who had told Fabian that legend. I heard that green diamonds represent uniqueness, and she kept pestering Fabian for one back then. So, does Ivy like the bag I picked for her this time? Of course she does. Judy spent 3 hours carefully choosing it. You worked hard. Judy stroked her abdomen, her eyes dim, her voice filled with pain. Fabian, Ivy is, after all, the adoptive mother of my child. I will definitely try to please her. Don't worry. Fabian, hearing this, his heart ached even more. Judy, thank you for being willing to give the child to Ivy. Only by giving it to Ivy can the child rightfully become the heir of the Humphrey family. Everything I have belongs to the child. Ivy overheard this ridiculous conversation, so he got Judy pregnant because she was desperate to have a child, and that's why he cheated. Ivy walked step by step toward the operating room. While changing into surgical clothes, her phone rang. Fabian was calling her. She answered. Ivy, awake, still mad. Your husband prepared 99 roses for you. The courier will deliver them to the villa soon, along with breakfast from Wang's, your favorite. If you insist on having a child, I'll have someone check the orphanage. If there's a suitable baby, we'll adopt. Give me at most a year. Okay, I'll let you be the mommy. Fine, I don't want a child anymore. She doesn't want her own child, so why would she raise the child he had with another woman? She definitely won't take it. Fabian finally softened his tone. Ivy, be good, you're my treasure. Our 7th wedding anniversary is in 3 days, and your husband has a surprise for you. Ivy hung up the phone. She also had a surprise for Fabian. Ivy lay on the cold operating table. Hugh appeared. Ivy, given your physical condition, if you lose this child, you might not be able to conceive again in the future. Would you like to reconsider? Ivy teared up, her vision blurred, and said, Hugh, I've made up my mind. This child was the best gift she could give Fabian for their 7th wedding anniversary. He didn't want it. He had crushed it from the very beginning. She wouldn't give it to him anymore. The cold instrument entered her body. Her churning stomach ached terribly. It also severed her only connection with Fabian. She just never expected that. After waking up from the operating room, the first message she received was a location pin for a bridal shop sent by an unknown number. Ivy, dragging her aching body, took a car and arrived at the bridal shop. Just in time. Fabian and the others have also just arrived. At the entrance, Fabian held Judy in his arms, his tone full of helplessness. Judy, you are my wife. I can't give you a proper wedding, but I still want you to wear a wedding dress once. Fabian, I'm just afraid of causing you trouble. This will cost a lot of money again. Fabian touched Judy's nose, full of affection. Silly girl. I can't give you an open and honorable status, but I can make you happy. Ivy sat in the car, listening to Fabian's words to Judy, her heart aching as if torn apart. Wife. Judy was his wife. Then what was she? He made Judy happy. But what about her own happiness? Watching Fabian's actions toward Judy, they were all things he had done to her countless times before. Ivy suddenly felt that losing the child was something she did not regret. Because Fabian was not worthy of being the father of her child, she also chose her wedding dress here when she married Fabian. Several luxury cars parked in front and behind her. Getting out of them were Fabian and her friends. Ivy heard the people outside talking. Fabian is planning a surprise for his sister-in-law, holding a small wedding ceremony at the bridal shop tonight. Fabian isn't afraid Ivy will find out. Who told Ivy she can't have children? Fabian even lied to her that their marriage certificate is fake. Everyone shut the hell up about this. Ivy is Fabian's treasure. This whole thing is just to appease Judy. Since she's carrying a golden child in her belly, Ivy felt her blood run cold. It turned out that all the friends she had grown up with knew about Fabian's betrayal of her. This bridal shop was something she had opened out of boredom during college, and every wedding dress inside was designed by her personally. Apart from the shop manager, no one knew she was the owner. Ivy entered through the back door after everyone else had gone in. She stood in a dim corner on the 3rd floor, watching Fabian in a white suit, while Judy also changed into a snow-white wedding dress. The inspiration for this wedding dress came from her first argument with Fabian. Fabian was angry that Jordan gave her a birthday gift, He pressed her against the blackboard in the university classroom, kissing her fiercely. That was also their first kiss. That night, in the sweet yet bittersweet first kiss, she designed this wedding dress called First Love. Fabian and Judy stood on the stage. Below the stage were all the people she had known since childhood. They were applauding, cheering, and blessing Fabian and Judy. Fabian, your wife is so beautiful. Fabian, congratulations. It's time for you and your wife to exchange rings. Ivy watched Fabian take the ring. The ring box opened. Ivy saw it clearly from her high vantage point. It was a pair of rings identical to their wedding rings. Fabian's was still the men's ring, and Judy's ring was exactly the same as hers, so even the rings were a threesome. The lights snapped on with a sharp sound. All the stage lights went out. Only Ivy stood illuminated on the high platform, and Fabian, the moment he saw Ivy, his eyes instantly reddened. He left Judy behind and desperately ran toward the third floor. Ivy. Everyone watched as Fabian trembled all over, his face deathly pale. His trembling hands held the heartbroken Ivy. Ivy, we were just shooting a short film. Don't misunderstand. You know, the S-ring was designed by me personally for you, but you don't like being on camera. Judy's hands look a lot like yours. When the ad video is edited, I plan to have this ad all over the city as a surprise for you. Fabian immediately slipped the ring onto Ivy's ring finger with trembling hands. But Ivy felt that the ring simply wouldn't fit. It wasn't her size. Meanwhile, downstairs, Judy stood pale-faced, her tear-filled eyes fixed on Ivy and Fabian. Fabian said coldly, Judy, my wife is angry. You need to explain, otherwise, you won't be working for the Humphrey family anymore. Judy spoke in a tone full of humility. Ivy, this wedding is an advertisement. I am the planner, because this ad was prepared by Mr. Fabian to be broadcast citywide 3 days later. On your wedding anniversary, Fabian's handsome face broke into a smile as he held Ivy in his arms. Ivy, you heard Judy's explanation, right? It was all for you. Everything I've done is because of you. Ivy, I love you and will never change. Ivy is the one Fabian, love most in this lifetime. Fabian's sweet words. Ivy had believed every single one of them for the past 27 years, but she never expected that Fabian, after betraying her, could still stand before her and declare his love for her to the whole world with such an affectionate demeanor. Judy was provoked by these words. I wish Mr. Fabian and Mrs. Humphrey a lifelong bond, growing old together, and a speedy arrival of precious children. Ivy felt a sharp pain in her heart upon hearing the words speedy arrival of precious children. That one glance exchanged with Judy, she watched Judy crying with pearly tears, then resolutely turned away and ran off without looking back. Fabian shouted loudly, with all his might and desperation, Judy, then he ran down frantically. Ivy saw Fabian chasing after Judy in front of everyone, and Judy had just run out. A large vehicle crashed with a bang, sending Judy flying. Ivy got out and stood by the roadside, then she saw Fabian screaming in agony. Judy, no! Fabian practically lunged forward and caught Judy, and everyone saw Judy, in order to save Fabian, at the last moment, turned with Fabian in her arms, her fragile body enduring the car's second impact. Bang! A pool of blood. Judy kept vomiting blood from her mouth. Beneath her, a river of blood had already formed. Fabian knelt on the ground, trembling hands holding Judy, eyes reddened. Judy, you'll be fine. I'll take you to the hospital right now. Meanwhile, Judy, spitting blood, cried out, the child, Fabian, save our child. Ivy watched as Fabian's pained, crimson eyes turned toward her. Ivy, I told you there's nothing between me and Judy. I said it was just an advertisement. Why won't you believe me? Why won't you be satisfied until you've killed her and her child? At this moment, Ivy saw hatred in Fabian's eyes, and there were also accusations from friends around. Ivy, Fabian loves you deeply. For the sake of loving you, even though he and Judy got married because of the old man, he still sent Judy abroad for almost 7 years. Others also chimed in. Yes, Ivy, Fabian especially doesn't want you to overwork, which is why he had Judy substitute for you to record today's short video. Ivy, you're too intolerant. Judy just likes Fabian, but she has never asked Fabian for anything in return. How can you not give such a kind girl even the slightest bit of leeway? Those friends who once said she and Fabian were the perfect golden couple, a match made in heaven, now stand on the moral high ground one by one, blaming her for the mistakes, blaming her for allowing a third person to come between her and Fabian's relationship, blaming her even though Fabian deceived her for 7 years, as if it were still her fault. Judy was sent to the hospital. Ivy followed along. Fabian only had minor scrapes, but he refused to let the doctors examine him, insisting on waiting for Judy's surgery. Judy suffered a massive hemorrhage. The baby could not be saved, and due to the excessive bleeding, her uterus had to be removed. Fabian was in agony. "Judy, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have sent you abroad for 7 years. I shouldn't have neglected you. And I shouldn't have mistaken all those things you silently did for me as being done by Ivy. I loved the wrong person. I always thought it was her." Ivy was very confused and bewildered upon hearing this. Judy did for Fabian, and Fabian thought it was her. Ivy, her teary eyes held a smile as her trembling hand wiped away her own tears, but she had also done so much for him, Fabian, since they were young, silently serving as his blood bank. She had known since she was 5 years old that Fabian had a condition of low platelets. He needed regular blood transfusions. What she feared most as a child was that Fabian would die. Her parents couldn't persuade her otherwise. She had been giving blood to Fabian since she was little, so she was often sick. While Fabian grew healthier and healthier, her body was weak and she easily caught colds and fevers. Later in middle school, her parents insisted on taking her away, not wanting her to risk her life for Fabian. Fabian thought it was because he knelt at Frances's house and begged for 7 days that her parents agreed to let her stay. In reality, she threatened to take her own life, and it was only after her parents were heartbroken that they let go. Watching Fabian say he regrets loving her, say he shouldn't have treated Judy coldly, Ivy also wanted to say that she regretted it too. If only she had known that her love with Fabian would come to this unrecognizable state, she would never have let it have even the slightest chance to begin. Ivy walked toward the elevator. Not far away, Fabian collapsed heavily to the ground. This time, she chose not to save Fabian. The silent night. Ivy was alone in the villa, yet her social media feed was bustling with activity tonight. She and Fabian, along with everyone they knew, were sharing a video. In the video, the bride's face was unseen, while the groom was placing a ring on her finger. The captions, however, all read, "Mr. Fabian and his wife's 7th wedding anniversary." Ivy curled her red lips into a mocking smile. 7th wedding anniversary. Fabian and Judy have also been married for 7 years. Just who are these people congratulating Fabian and Judy on stage was shared by all of them on their social media moments. It has now even spread across the internet. The whole internet is congratulating her. "Mrs. Humphrey is so lucky. Mr. Fabian, Mrs. Humphrey." The wedding of the century reappears. At this moment, Fabian was still lying in the hospital, in no mood to deal with these news reports, and her phone rang. She pressed the answer button. "Ivy, Fabian urgently needs blood right now. Come to the hospital quickly to give him a transfusion." Ivy's tear-filled eyes were full of resentment. "Sorry, old Mr. Humphrey, I am neither Fabian's wife, nor his girlfriend, and I have no relation to him whatsoever. I have no obligation or responsibility to save him." "You knew it," Ivy sneered. "Thanks to the old man for hurting me 7 years ago. It saved me from having to argue with Fabian over a divorce 7 years later. If he bleeds to death tonight, as someone who is neither his wife nor his girlfriend, I won't be attending his funeral. Ivy, just like your grandfather. You will always be someone despise." Old Mr. Humphrey hung up the phone. All night, Ivy couldn't fall asleep. She alone sorted through all the things related to her and Fabian. The wedding photos. She took a hammer and smashed them one by one. The entire floor was covered in shards of glass. Fabian's gifts to her, clothes, gold and silver jewelry, and handbags. She packed them all up. In the middle of the night, everything was taken away by the second-hand auction. And the gifts she and Fabian had exchanged since childhood. Ivy looked at this rabbit doll, which was bought by Fabian to comfort her when she cried as a child. There was also a stack of college entrance exam workbooks, which Fabian had forced her to complete while tutoring her. Ivy moved all these to the yard and burned them one by one. The phone rang again, an unfamiliar text message. "I never knew he loved me so much. The kind that would even risk his life." Ivy only replied with one sentence. "Judy, congratulations on recycling my trash." 3 hours later, Ivy received news that Fabian had woken up, Humphrey family's hospital, where she still had 5 bags of blood stored, just in case Fabian needed them. Over the years, he had been in good health and hadn't suffered any injuries, so she would go to donate blood for storage every 6 months, fearing that Fabian might suddenly have an accident and need it. And last night, given how severely he was injured, those 5 bags of blood must have been used up completely. Her 27 years of affection with Fabian could be completely packed away in at most 5 hours. It turned out, she was Fabian's bodyguards forcibly taken to the hospital. Pushing open the door to the hospital room, Ivy saw Fabian holding Judy. Fabian, his eyes were filled with rage. "Ivy, you actually bribed the doctor, not only causing Judy to lose her child but also having her uterus removed." Ivy heard Fabian falsely accusing her of being responsible for Judy's loss of her uterus. At that moment, the doctor nearby reported, Mr. Fabian, it was Ms. Ivy. She said if I didn't remove Mrs. Humphrey's uterus, she would make it impossible for my family to survive in City Y. Fabian released Judy and walked toward her. For the first time, Fabian directly grabbed Ivy by the neck. Ivy, how could you use money and power to oppress others and hurt Judy? When did you become so unrecognizable? Ivy, hearing this, instantly looked at Fabian with tear-filled eyes. His heartbroken, furious expression would never be for her again. The pain in her neck was real and sharp. Fabian had hurt her for the sake of Judy. Ivy curled her lips and said, Fabian, it's just a uterus. If I want it, I can even buy her life with money. Instantly, Fabian flew into a rage and slapped Ivy hard across the face. Ivy's frail body fell to the ground. Fabian said coldly, Someone, take Ivy to the operating room and remove her uterus. 2 doctors restrained her body. Ivy was stunned upon hearing this. Fabian, what did you say? What are you going to do to me? Fabian, his cold eyes swept over Ivy. Ivy, one must not owe others. You're no exception. Since you owe Judy, repay it. Once it's paid off, I'll still cherish you as before. Fabian, with one glance, 2 doctors directly took Ivy away. She wanted to struggle, but one of the doctors held an anesthetic needle and directly injected it into her body. Instantly Ivy's vision began to blur. She watched as Fabian embraced Judy once again. Judy, don't cry. When you cry, my heart breaks. Ivy fainted. Her mind filled with scenes from her youth. At 20 years old, she was in Fabian's arms, sobbing softly, while Fabian chuckled mischievously in her ear, his voice full of affection. Ivy, I love it most when you cry. It really turns me on. It turns out that truly caring for a woman means feeling heartbroken when she cries. The pain in her abdomen returned. The conversation between the doctor and Fabian was vaguely clear to Ivy in her dazed state. Mr. Fabian, did Ms. Ivy previously undergo a uterine curettage surgery, and was her uterus removed? Uterine curettage surgery. Fabian's deep voice carried a questioning tone. The doctor explained, uterine curettage surgery might be necessary if there were issues like fibroids in the uterus. Fabian said coldly, remove Ivy's uterus and show it to Judy. Judy's eyes are already swollen from crying. She can't cry anymore. Complete the surgery as soon as possible, after the anesthesia is administered. You need to wait an hour before the surgery can be performed. Fabian, however, thought the wait was too long and said impatiently, Ivy is already unconscious. Just operate and remove her uterus. Ivy shed a tear from the corner of her eye. Removing her uterus was just to stop Judy from crying. The uterus was removed. Ivy was bleeding heavily. By the time she woke up, it was already 2 days later. Fabian's cold eyes gleamed with indifference. You're awake. Ivy, her throat was parched. And she hadn't had a chance to speak yet. Fabian said coldly, you had a massive hemorrhage, and it was Judy who donated blood to save you. Ivy, you should repay her kindness, understand? Meanwhile, Judy, who was peeling an orange nearby, said shyly, Fabian, I didn't mean to force Ms. Ivy to thank me. I know you care about Ms. Ivy, but even if half the blood in my body went to Ms. Ivy, it wouldn't matter. If it meant saving Ms. Ivy, even if it took all my blood, I'd die to save her. Judy's words were truly pleasing to hear, but then Fabian said, Ivy, what you owe Judy, repay it with your identity. Ivy looked at Fabian. The light in her eyes for him was gone. Ivy endured the pain and got up from the bed. Fabian, seeing her like this, he immediately came over and grabbed her hand fiercely. He scolded angrily, what are you doing? You don't care about my life or death. You don't care about Judy's life or death. Ivy, you owe us. Ivy, her face was pale, but her eyes were calm. She smiled mockingly. Fabian, do I really owe you? Not far away, Judy cried and said, Fabian, I don't want anything. I just want you and Ms. Ivy to be together. I can never see you again. After saying this, Judy fainted. Fabian immediately let go of Ivy, quickly went to hold Judy in his arms. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, Ivy, not everyone will indulge you. Judy has been taking care of you ever since she donated blood to you. Staying by your side in this hospital room, fearing you wouldn't wake up. Neither she nor I have wronged you, and you should be content. Now that your grandfather has passed away, you have no relatives left in City Y. Ivy suddenly realized how wrong she had been not to go abroad with her parents back then. Fabian quickly carried Judy out of the hospital room. Meanwhile, Ivy, enduring the pain, left the hospital. She opened her phone to find many messages from her lawyer, Ms. Ivy. The other buyer has already arrived in City Y, waiting to sign the contract with you. Ivy went to the law firm again. She had completely disposed of the last half of Francis' family assets, and Fabian gave her shares, which she personally found a buyer for. Fabian's archrival, Jordan, She sent a message to Jordan, "Prepare 30 billion, I'll sell you all the Humphrey family shares in my possession." She received Jordan's single-word reply, "Okay." Initially, Ivy had planned to return the Humphrey family shares to Fabian. Even though he had cheated, she wanted to preserve some dignity for both of them. But after going through all these events, Ivy no longer had that intention. She wants to destroy the Humphrey family, and also destroy Fabian, just as thoroughly as he destroyed her. Ivy looked toward the shopping mall not far away, where the large screen was scrolling with Fabian's announcement of his marriage to Judy. Along with a heartfelt confession, "Sorry, the rumors that Ivy and I are a couple were actually a misunderstanding all these years. 7 years ago, I married Judy, but because I wanted to protect my wife, I asked my then sister Ivy to help me, which led to the rumors over the past 7 years. Sorry. Now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, I correct myself. My Fabian's wife has always been and only Judy." Ivy, her clear eyes showed no fluctuation. Today was the day after her anniversary with Fabian, and also the real 7th anniversary of Fabian and Judy. The phone rang, Fabian's call. Ivy picked up. Inside was Fabian's angry voice. "Ivy, I order you to return to the hospital. Judy is having health issues, and you need to come personally to take care of her." Ivy, however, stared at the screen and said calmly, "Wasn't my uterus already given to her as compensation? Now you want me to take care of her too?" "Ivy, you need to understand, Judy's body has suffered such severe damage, and it's because of your appearance that she lost her 3-month-old baby. Do you know how a mother feels when she loses her own child?" Ivy's heart ached painfully as she recalled the 2 children she had miscarried. She had left the hospital earlier and placed the babies in a cryogenic container, having them delivered to the restaurant where she and Fabian had celebrated their 6th wedding anniversary. As long as Fabian went to that restaurant, the manager would hand over this 7th and final wedding anniversary gift to him. "Fabian, I know," and Fabian said in a commanding tone, "Since you know, then take care of Judy, and I will forgive you. You will still be by my side, you and Judy, inseparable." Listening to Fabian wanting to have it both ways, to keep them both, Ivy's mind was filled with Fabian's wedding vows. "Ivy, I love you, and I will love only you for all eternity." And those childhood friends were teasing and making a fuss. "Fabian, what if you ever let Ivy down? Then I'll jump from the top floor of the Humphrey family's corporate building." Those cheerful voices and laughter were vividly echoing in her ears. She used her last bit of strength and said calmly, "Fabian, we've broken up." There was no marriage between them. A 7-year-long unregistered marriage could only end with the words "break up." After hanging up the phone, Ivy found a coffee shop. Handling the necessary tasks, she called her lawyer. "Hello, Ms. Ivy, how may I assist you?" "First, Ivan's position as president. All the shares I hold will support his elder brother. Second, James family's group has a financial deficit. Release the news and sue Jim to repay me 5 billion. Third, Humphrey family's old master killed his own son and daughter-in-law back then. There is evidence in the inheritance left by my grandfather. Hand it over to the police." Back during the Walter family's 3-son power struggle, Fabian was stopped by the old master from interfering in Walter family affairs. Fabian was sulking during that time, feeling he couldn't help his brother. It was she who went back to the Francis family and begged her grandfather, asking him to secretly help Ivan, which led to Ivan's current success in gaining control of the Walter family. And old Mr. Humphrey indirectly caused the death of his own son and daughter-in-law, something grandfather always knew. Not only did old Mr. Humphrey personally come to beg her grandfather, but her grandfather only endured it out of respect. Yet, until his death, her grandfather would never have imagined that the old man would pin this debt on their family, the James family, Fabian's close friend Jim. The James family was torn apart by internal strife and corruption, with a deficit as high as 5 billion. Half a year ago, Jim personally came to borrow money from her, asking her not to tell Fabian, and she lent it to him, but what she got in return was all of them helping Fabian keep it from her. She didn't need them to repay a drop of kindness with a flood of gratitude. Don't laugh at her behind her back and treat her like a fool. Those she had helped stood against her and hurt her. So she took back all the kindness she had shown them. The last person she saw was Jordan. "Ivy, what you need is urgent. I can only raise half of it in an hour, and the other half will definitely be transferred to your account within a week." Ivy, her clear eyes showed no fluctuation. Jordan said in a low voice, "Ivy, are you really sure about this? If you sell the shares of the Humphrey family to me, I will acquire the Humphrey family and ensure that Fabian never rises again." Ivy picked up the pen and signed the share transfer agreement without hesitation. After signing the transfer contract, Jordan personally escorted her to the airport. "Ivy, can't you stay?" Ivy turned and looked at Jordan, avoiding the topic. She said instead, Jordan, congratulations. From today, only the Kenneth family will remain among the top 5 elite families in City Y. They will all pay for what they have done. Ivy turned and entered the boarding gate, leaving without looking back. Fabian, from now on we part ways, each to their own, and grow to despise each other. In the hospital, Fabian stared at his phone, lost in thought for a long time. Did he hear Ivy say the words break up? They had been together for over 20 years, even during their most intense arguments. They had never said those words to each other. Fabian tried calling Ivy again, but her phone was already unreachable. At the moment he collapsed at the door of the operating room. He saw Ivy run away without looking back. Even when he was on the verge of death in a coma, she didn't come when his grandfather called her, and she even said so many vicious things. Fabian was furious. If it weren't for the fact that every 6 months over the past 7 years, Judy would secretly come back to donate a bag of blood, stored in the hospital at Humphrey's house, this time he would definitely be dead. Fabian has known since childhood that there was something wrong with his body. His grandfather had told him that he found several adult donors with the same blood type as him. Each time they donated blood to him, they were paid 5 million. In the days of youthful vigor, I often protected Ivy, fought many battles for Ivy, and shed a lot of blood back then. But after graduation, entering society, he learned to use tactics to resolve everything and never got hurt again. Yet he never imagined that every time blood was drawn, it wasn't from the adults as his grandfather had said. Instead, it was born by Judy's frail body, saved his life for 20 years, loved him for 20 years as well. He once thought it was all Ivy, because every time he received a blood transfusion, the person lying on the next bed was Ivy, and that girl would always say it, "Fabian, I'm so weak too. You have to share a lot of good food with me." Back then, he wanted to spoil Ivy to the heavens. It wasn't until half a year ago, when he was forced by his grandfather to share a room with Judy, and he hurt himself that night, that he finally learned it had always been Judy who donated blood for him, not Ivy. The nurse from the next room rushed over. "Mr. Fabian, Mrs. Humphrey." Fabian heard the words Mrs. Humphrey, and his first reaction was, "Ivy she," but as the words left his mouth, he knew he had said the wrong thing. "Mrs. Humphrey Ivy. Judy." Fabian immediately came over next door. Judy was crying her eyes out. I'm sorry, Fabian, let's get a divorce. I no longer have a uterus, and I've caused conflict between you and MS. Ivy, it's my fault, I can't stay by your side anymore." Fabian pulled Judy into his arms. "My heart is filled with pain and self-blame. Judy, you haven't wronged anyone, it's me who has been spoiling the wrong person all these years. Ivy's uterus has been removed and given to you as compensation. I will treat you well from now on. I am deeply grateful that you risked your life to save me." Judy leaned against Fabian's chest, crying as she said, "Fabian, can I really stay by your side? I thought this was the greatest wish of my life. Do you really not love Ivy anymore?" Fabian felt a sharp pain in his chest upon hearing the name Ivy. Although he had mistaken his savior, his doting on Ivy for 27 years was undeniably real. How could he ever forget? But the thought of Ivy's indifference when he was near death, and the realization that all his kindness to Ivy over the years had been wasted on an ungrateful wretch, Fabian knew that the Judy before him was the one he was meant to love. If Ivy begged for his forgiveness, he would still be willing to keep things as they were. At the thought, Fabian wanted to call Ivy, but he held himself back this time. He had to make that brat cry. But half a month passed, there was no news at all. Yet the news during this half-month was all about the scandals involving his close friends. Ivan was kicked out of the board by his brother. James' house was thoroughly searched from top to bottom. The James family members including Jim were all arrested. Ivan came to the beauty salon. "Fabian, Ivy, where is she? Ivy, where is she? I haven't been able to find her for the past half-month." Fabian frowned deeply with his thick dark eyebrows, saying coldly, "Ivy isn't at the villa. Where else could she be? I'm so angry this time. She wouldn't dare go anywhere." Ivan despaired. "Fabian, Ivy is not at the villa. I've been looking for her for a long time, and I couldn't get through to you on the phone, so I found out you were at the beauty salon, not far away." Judy had a trace of panic in her eyes. Fabian looked at Judy. For the past half-month, he had rarely touched his phone, and Ivan said he had called him many times, but none went through. Fabian was about to check his phone. Judy immediately cried and said, "Fabian, I just wanted you to rest properly. Your body just had a major blood transfusion." Fabian, his handsome face instantly softened a great deal. Yes, Judy gave half of her blood to him, and the other half to Ivy. She is the savior of both him and Ivy. Judy has always been concerned about his health. Hanging up the phone was also because of him. Fabian said with a magnetic voice, "Just go back to Francis' house and look. What exactly happened?" Ivan said instead, "Fabian, Ivy is missing." Fabian simply didn't believe it. He knew all too well how clingy Ivy was with him. Ivy was so timid, and he knew that all too well. Even if he hurt her, with their 27 years of feelings, at most she would be angry, not disappear. Fabian had veins bulging on his forehead, his gloomy eyes cold. "Impossible. Ivy would never leave me." Fabian moved to go check, and Judy immediately said through tears, "Fabian, I'll go with you. I'll kowtow and apologize to Ms. Ivy. I'll make sure she forgives you." Fabian, his deep eyes gazed at the delicate yet sensible Judy. "Judy, wait for me to return. I'll go find Ivy. You don't need to come. Seeing you now would only make her angrier." Fabian quickly left, and on Judy's face. The moment the door closed, there were no more tears. Her red lips curled into a smile. "Ivy, you finally left. If you stayed any longer, I would have had to take your life." Fabian returned to the villa and searched from top to bottom but couldn't find Ivy. He finally panicked. The servant said anxiously, "Mr. Fabian, the lady's belongings have long been gone. There's a barrel in the backyard with many things burned inside." Fabian was furious. "Ivy is missing." "Why didn't you say anything?" the servant said anxiously. "Didn't you already draw a clear line with your wife? Not long ago, the news was known to everyone in City Y." Fabian felt a sudden jolt in his heart. It was as if he had let the whole world know that he married Judy, not Ivy. It was as if he had cleared up his relationship with Ivy in front of everyone in the world. Fabian ran to the room like a madman. There were no belongings of Ivy in the wardrobe anymore. Even the couple's clothes and items he and Ivy shared only have the men's versions left. Fabian ran downstairs again. Looking at the large iron barrel where the burned items still held their shape, he could clearly see that they were all gifts he had given to Ivy. The rabbit doll, Ivy's favorite. He used to comfort her with a bunny plush since she was little, taking her to various arcades to play claw machines. Later, as she grew up and developed a love for handbags, he would snatch the latest GG brand bags for her. Even if it meant staying up until the early hours, he would wait and grab them. As long as he gave the bag to Ivy, her eyes would light up, she would be overjoyed, and then she would throw herself into his arms, acting cute. "Fabian, you're amazing. I just saw the news about the new bag, and you already bought it." "Yes, my Ivy can have everything." And the clothes, every piece of couple's clothing was designed by him and her. The girl had an exceptional talent for design, and he enjoyed adding elements to her creations. While she followed his sketches, Fabian squatted in front of the iron barrel, watching everything of him and Ivy turn to ashes. He covered his head in agony with his hands. "Ivy," the assistant's phone call came through. Fabian answered it. "Mr. Fabian, we found out that Ms. Ivy flew to Country Y half a month ago, and all the assets of the Francis family have been liquidated. Even the Francis family building has been sold." Fabian instantly dropped his phone to the ground. "Gone? How could she just leave like that?" Fabian looked deathly pale. Fabian made countless calls to Ivy on his phone, but each time it was, "The number you have dialed is not in service, please try again later." And WeChat had already been deactivated. Fabian didn't believe it, so he went to Francis' old family home, only to find it empty and abandoned. He then went to the company. Francis' main headquarters had already been sold to a buyer from North City. As for the subsidiaries, some had even been sold to foreign companies. All changes in legal representatives had already been completed. Fabian wanted to contact Francis's parents, but it was like throwing a stone into the sea. He couldn't reach them. Fabian suddenly felt completely drained. He had never imagined it would come to the point where he and Ivy would never see each other again. But he couldn't find Ivy all of a sudden, and he panicked completely. He called everyone they knew, but everyone's response was that they hadn't seen Ivy, nor had they had any contact. Ivan explained anxiously, "Fabian, the 18% equity in Walter family that previously supported me belonged to Ivy. She sold all her shares to my eldest brother, which is why I was kicked out of the Walter family. Last time you and Judy got married in the bridal shop, she settled accounts with every single person who attended. James' family collapsed. I was kicked out. Lucy was exiled abroad. Lily was married off to the West Sea. They had all received Ivy's favors. Yet Ivy pressured each of their families one by one, and they were all abandoned by their families. We were all childhood friends of hers, but we all knew you betrayed her, and not one of us told her. She hates all of us." Fabian's face was deathly pale. His eyes were filled with deep pain. "She hates me, and she hates all of you." The assistant called again. "Mr. Fabian, we found out that before leaving Ms. Ivy came from the hospital and went to the cafe opposite Humphrey's building. The last person she met was Jordan." Fabian, envy and anger were all visible in his eyes. Kenneth's family best heir, Jordan, loves Ivy. He made the phone call. He wants to know why Ivy left City Y and finally wants to see Jordan. Jordan heard Fabian ask about Ivy. He suddenly laughed. Fabian, isn't it a bit too late to ask? Your marriage with Ivy has always been a deception, and only she knows it now. Jordan, this is between me and Ivy. Do you actually know where she went? Jordan said, I do. She went to country Y and will never come back. Fabian, I forgot to tell you. Tomorrow is the shareholders' meeting of the Humphrey family. Fabian said coldly, why do you care about the shareholders' meeting of the Humphrey family? Jordan chuckled softly. Fabian, 7 years ago, you felt guilty toward Ivy because of your marriage to Judy, so you transferred all your shares to Ivy, and half a month ago, Ivy sold all your Humphrey family shares to me for 30 billion. Now, get out of the Humphrey family. Fabian instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. No, impossible. Ivy would never do this to me. Jordan. Did you deceive Ivy again? Jordan said. Ivy risked her life for you, nearly died several times, and never let you know a thing. Fabian, even the 30 billion shares of the Humphrey family aren't enough to match what Ivy has given for you all these years. Jordan hung up the phone. Fabian frantically called back again. Jordan, explain clearly, what do you mean by Ivy nearly dying several times for me? Explain it clearly. Jordan sneered. Fabian, if it weren't for Ivy's love for you, I would have done everything to take her away, but after this, you will never have her again. After the Humphrey family's shareholders meeting tomorrow, I will go to find her. Fabian, just wait. After losing her, you will have nothing left. Jordan hung up the phone, but this time, he directly sent over several pieces of evidence. Fabian looked at the images one by one. It was from their youth. Ivy was injured and unconscious, and she sat by his side transfusing her blood to him. She looked at him and smiled, her eyes full of love. There were a few more photos of Ivy lying by his bedside. There was still an 4 needle in her hand. Later on, Ivy went to the hospital at fixed times, always to the hematology department, even Ivy going to the hospital to serve as his backup blood bag. Jordan knew it all clearly. Fabian looked at this record. All were Ivy's signatures. In his mind, he recalled how his grandfather had deceived him, saying Judy was the one who saved his life. It's all Ivy. All of it is Ivy. Ivy, you have given so much for me. Fabian was filled with murderous intent from head to toe, his entire body radiating a fierce and menacing aura, like the king of hell emerging from the underworld, coming to claim a life. He drove back at 150 miles per hour to the Humphrey family's old mansion. He went straight to the old master's study. The door was kicked open violently by him, but Fabian did not expect to witness such a disgusting scene. Judy was as pure white all over as a little white kitten. She crouched pitifully between the old man's legs, swaying the few tattered rags she wore. She performed acts to please the old man. Fabian instantly felt nauseous and vomited violently at this moment. His fingers, with distinct knuckles, gripped the door. Those fierce eyes stared at the two figures not far away. He curled his lips, his voice icy cold. Grandpa, what are you and Judy doing? Judy saw it was Fabian. And instantly her face turned deathly pale. The revealing lingerie barely covered her as she collapsed to the ground. Her flickering eyes instantly filled with tears, voice trembling intensely. Fabian, listen to me. Judy struggled desperately to put on her skirt, and the more flustered she became, the less she could manage to dress herself. Judy crawled toward Fabian in tears. Fabian, I can explain. Old Mr. Humphrey remained composed. His murky eyes reflecting the cold indifference of a man in power. A deep voice said, Fabian, your grandfather has no explanation to offer. If I say Judy is a good girl, then she is. Fabian's gloomy eyes were filled with coldness. So, grandfather, you tried her out first before arranging my marriage to her. Judy fell to the ground, crying and clinging to Fabian's leg. Fabian, I was forced. I did it for you. Your cousin has always been eyeing your CEO position. The old man said if I serve him, the Humphrey family will be yours in the future. Fabian's face darkened with fury as he angrily kicked Judy away. He said coldly, my cousin, Judy, what right does that good-for-nothing have to compare to me? Do you think I need you to sell yourself? By now, Fabian no longer believed Judy at all. What he had investigated revealed that the old master and Judy had deliberately schemed against him. Judy's blood type was completely incompatible for a transfusion to him. The old master's face darkened with fury, saying, Fabian, she's just a woman. Judy has been my woman for many years, just a plaything. If you want her, I'll give her to you. If not, she'll stay at Humphrey's house as a maid. Just like her mother. Judy instantly screamed in terror. No, I want to be with Fabian. Fabian, I love you. The old master raped me. He assaulted me when I was 19. Fabian, old Mr. Humphrey. Was it you or her who insisted that I and Judy get the marriage certificate, and forced me to give Ivy the sterilization drug? Fabian's finger pointed at Judy. Judy was instantly terrified. She kept looking at the old man, hoping he would admit it, but the old man curled his lips. Although Grandpa doesn't like Frances's girl, he isn't cruel to that extent. At that time, Judy was pregnant, and Grandpa wanted this little son, so he agreed. Judy raged. "You old thing. You clearly said you would never tell Fabian." For these 7 years, she wasn't exiled abroad but was imprisoned by the old man in a villa in the suburbs, where he perversely enjoyed her. Fabian looked at Judy with eyes full of hatred. "Grandpa, I won't let this matter rest." Judy was clutching Fabian's trouser leg. "Fabian, I love you, I truly love you. All these years I've loved you desperately. Everything I've done has been because I love you." Fabian instead kicked Judy again. Judy instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. Fabian cast a cold gaze at old Mr. Humphrey. "Grandfather, I will settle the score with you." Fabian took Judy away. All the way, Judy was dragged out of Humphrey's house by Fabian in such a state of undress. The servants and bodyguards all saw it. The secret of the wealthy family still didn't stay hidden. Before long, the news was sold to a reporter by a money-grubbing nanny. In no time, Judy's exposed photo took over the front page headlines. But no one yet knew what had happened. The front page only featured a few bold words: "Mrs. Humphrey and Mr. Fabian are playing so outrageously," and there are many comments online. Fabian locked Judy in a dilapidated house. Judy begged Fabian in tears, "I was ruined by your grandfather. He knew I liked you. That night when I was 19, he called me to his room, saying he would allow us to be together. But instead, he violated me." Fabian slapped Judy hard across the face. "Just because you like me, does that mean I have to like you back? You ruined me and Ivy. Tell me, how should I get back at you?" Fabian said coldly. "Judy, I've already had the lawyer start the divorce proceedings between you and me." Judy was instantly stunned and immediately tried to throw herself into Fabian's arms, but was Fabian pushed away fiercely. Judy hurriedly cried and said, "Fabian, I know you still miss Ivy very much. I won't compete with her. If you insist on giving the position of Mrs. Humphrey to her, I will just silently be the woman behind you." "Okay." Fabian looked at Judy crying with tears streaming down her face. His mind was filled with the image of Ivy crying. That girl has a bit of a temper and is quite delicate. Every time she cries, she likes to keep biting him while in his arms, even if she says she's uncomfortable. He has to endure it. Since when did he start looking at Judy differently? It was Grandpa who said Judy was the one who saved him all these years. Clearly it was a lie. Clearly he only needed to check, yet he believed it. Fabian threw a stack of photos to Judy. "You started seducing Grandpa 10 years ago, making him stop me from being with Ivy. It was also your idea to force me to marry you and to make me give Ivy sterilization drugs, only then allowing me to marry Ivy." Judy saw that Fabian had uncovered something from so long ago. Her face turned pale, but she stubbornly refused to admit it. "No, it's not true, Fabian. It was the old man. All of it was done by the old man. I tried to persuade him, but he insisted on making Ivy's life a living hell." Fabian had a cold look in his eyes. He took Judy's phone, directly input a program, and all the chat records or any data that Judy had deleted were fully restored. Fabian watched as Judy used 2 accounts to continuously send messages to Ivy. He saw those messages, all of which were Judy's provocations toward Ivy. There was also Judy's meticulous plan, with notes even stored in the phone. She was calculating step by step Ivy, scheming against him. Even the sterilization medicine Ivy drank back then was obtained by Judy. The dose she administered was extremely potent. Fabian's eyes held even deeper pain. "Judy, over the past decade, you've been scheming against me and Ivy. Even the car accident at the bridal shop entrance was a setup you orchestrated using yourself. No, to be precise, that car was originally intended for Ivy, but the driver hit the wrong person, yet you still managed to turn the mistake to your advantage, cunningly using your own body to block me. So calm, so clear, and even more impressively quick-witted." At this moment, he couldn't help but admire Judy's ability to adapt. But Judy truly wanted to kill Ivy. Judy cried and screamed, "Fabian, let me explain. I just love you too much. I really do." Fabian looked at the hypocritical Judy. He said coldly, "Since you want Ivy dead, then you can rot in prison." Judy was terrified. "Fabian, I love you. I love you." Fabian pushed Judy away again without hesitation. "Get lost. Don't dirty me." Judy knew it was impossible between her and Fabian now. Suddenly, a smile spread across her face as she said loudly, "Fabian, did you know, the last time you accompanied me to the public hospital for a prenatal checkup, Ivy was also there." She went to the operating room for an abortion. Fabian was instantly filled with shock. He angrily said, "Judy, you're lying. Ivy couldn't possibly have a child." Judy sneered and replied, You didn't see her, but I did. Hugh from the medical school knows about it. If you don't believe me, go ask him. Fabian, I love you, but since we were kids, you've only ever liked Ivy. I'm just the daughter of the Humphrey family's nanny. If I didn't use tricks, you wouldn't even glance my way. Fabian's hand gripped Judy's neck. His eyes filled with hatred. He said angrily, that's no reason for you to hurt Ivy. My darling will always be Ivy. You and Grandpa both deserve to die. Judy's throat ached terribly, but she laughed. But she will never forgive you. Fabian's trembling hand loosened its grip. Those eyes were filled with pain. Yes, she will never forgive me. Fabian's eyes instantly turned cold, and he immediately made a phone call. Before long, the bodyguards brought in several beggars. He had these men torment Judy. Judy lay on the ground, laughing hysterically. Fabian, no matter how you retaliate against me, you can never divorce me. The old man will never agree to it. The son I gave birth to for the old man, he will count it as yours. I told you, I want to be with you for a lifetime. If he can't do it, I will expose all his secrets. Fabian's eyes turned cold as a message from his lawyer came through on his phone. It was 2 divorce certificates. He said, from now on, Grandpa won't be able to stop me anymore. Judy, we're divorced. When the images of the 2 divorce certificates were placed before Judy, it was the deepest shattering blow to Judy. She cried out in agony, no, I will always be Mrs. Humphrey. I am Mrs. Humphrey. Fabian watched as Judy's clothes were torn open by those beggars. He turned and walked straight out of the dilapidated warehouse. Then he instructed the bodyguard, take her to the police station tomorrow morning, along with the driver who hit her, submit all the evidence and file a lawsuit against Judy for murder. Fabian went to the first hospital in City Y, found Hugh. Hugh was the only breath of fresh air in their circle. Seeing Fabian, Hugh wasn't surprised. Fabian, this is Ivy's pregnancy record. Fabian took the report. His eyes read as he looked at the records. Ivy, 1.5 months pregnant, with twins. Fabian was instantly heartbroken. Unable to breathe from the pain in his chest, it hurt too much. The man's tall, upright body kept stepping back, unsteady on his feet, his handsome face deathly pale, asked in a trembling voice, is it true that Ivy is pregnant with my child, and with twins? Hugh pushed up his glasses and sighed. Fabian, after you forbade Ivy from undergoing IVF, she secretly came to the public hospital to find me and asked me not to tell you. Over the past few months, she has gone through multiple rounds of ovulation and IVF procedures, enduring pain beyond your imagination. She desperately wanted a child. She always told me that her love with you had no regrets, but a child was the best gift she wanted to give you. Fabian covered his eyes with his slender fingers, tears wetting his hand. He was in extreme agony. Ivy, how many needles have you endured? She's had at least 78 injections for fetal preservation. Yet every single time, she came alone. You never knew, Fabian said in a voice full of pain. She's so afraid of pain. She's always been terrified of it. Hugh continued, after the IVF succeeded, she was overjoyed and said she wanted to give you a surprise for your anniversary. Fabian and Ivy's news spread throughout the entire City Y. Everyone knew about it, even without Hugh saying. Fabian already knew, and he had let Ivy know about his betrayal. Hugh said, after Francis' family's grandfather passed away, you went abroad right after the funeral. But Fabian, Francis' family's grandfathers will left the inheritance to you two as a couple. Ivy needs to handle the inheritance under both your names, which requires a marriage certificate. Fabian turned pale, but the marriage certificate he gave Ivy 7 years ago was fake. Ivy couldn't transfer the inheritance from Francis' family into both of their names. Old Mr. Francis' generosity and selflessness. Ivy's love, even this astronomical inheritance made it all crystal clear, but he had failed old Mr. Francis and Ivy. Hugh delivered the final blow. Fabian, Ivy can never have children again, to cut ties with you completely. She gave up her only chance to become a mother. Fabian covered his face with his hands and wailed, "Ah, Ivy, Ivy." He even had her uterus removed, all for Judy. Fabian couldn't even imagine how desperate Ivy must have felt, lying in the operating room at that time. He only felt that he had to compensate Judy. He only thought that since Ivy couldn't have children anyway, losing her uterus didn't matter. But he never considered that fragile uterus had once nurtured 2 of his children. In truth, his Ivy had once paid a great price, wanting to give him the best gift, and all of his was wasted, all was lost. Ivy, she came each time to get pregnant without his knowledge, and the times on the report were all when he was at the company. Once he called her, and the girl's voice didn't sound right. "Fabian, why do you keep calling me? I'm not feeling well." He immediately rushed home and saw Ivy pale-faced, curled up in a ball, and he caught a whiff of the smell of blood. But the girl smiled at him. "I'm on my period. and I have cramps, warm me up." He covered her stomach with his hand, while Ivy buried herself in his arms and cried, "Fabian, it hurts so much." He kissed her, feeling both startled and flustered, because Ivy had never suffered from menstrual cramps before. He called Hugh and followed his instructions to make brown sugar water for Ivy, keeping her warm. After taking care of her for several days, the girl finally recovered. Fabian's eyes reddened. It wasn't period pain, but the pain of Ivy preparing for pregnancy. Fabian's heart ached too much. Why did he only realize it now? Why did he only know it now? That bowl of potent cold medicine on the wedding night had dealt a devastating blow to Ivy's body. At that time, he only wanted to possess her, yet he had also inflicted the greatest harm upon her. Judy and Grandpa were the masterminds, but he was the executioner. Fabian walked out of the hospital, his entire being as if his soul had been drained away. The phone beeped. According to news reports, all the evidence and phone records regarding his parents' death point to the Humphrey family's patriarch. Fabian saw this message. The phone rang. Inside was the butler's hurried voice. "Young master, the old master has been taken away by the police," Fabian said in a gloomy voice. "Is the report true? Was it actually grandfather who killed my parents?" The butler's trembling voice, "It was. It was an accident." Fabian was so angry his eyes turned red. The butler's trembling voice recounted events from over 20 years ago. That day, the parents of both families went out to play. He had a fever, and his parents, worried, wanted to get him to the hospital quickly. Coincidentally, the car his parents were driving ran out of gas, so they took Francis's family car and left. On the way, his father discovered the brakes had failed while trying to avoid a large truck. With a turn of the steering wheel by his father, the car tumbled down the cliff, yet he was well protected by his mother. The two adults died, but he survived. Fabian felt as if his heart had been torn out upon hearing this. He loved Ivy, but he also hated Ivy. All these years, he has been entangled and tormented by the hatred between his parents and Ivy. But now, with undeniable evidence before him, everything was orchestrated by his grandfather. Fabian came to the police station to see old Mr. Humphrey. Upon seeing Fabian, the old man just sighed. "Fabian, all of that is true. Fabian, I've fought with that old thing from the Francis family all my life. I can't lose." Fabian's hate-filled red eyes stared at the old man. "So, you destroyed me and Ivy. So you used my parents' lives just to win against old Mr. Francis." Old Mr. Humphrey showed not a hint of remorse. "Yes, I was against it back then. It was you who insisted on being with Ivy. I absolutely would not allow a daughter of the Francis family to bear the bloodline of the Humphrey family." And what Judy said hit right at the heart of my thoughts. But Fabian curled his lips and delivered the most fatal blow to old Mr. Humphrey. 7 years ago, out of guilt, I secretly transferred all my shares to Ivy, and now, all the shares have been acquired by the Kenneth family. Grandfather, back then you forced me to marry Judy. I want all the shares of the Humphrey family in your hands, and now, the Humphrey family is completely destroyed." Old Mr. Humphrey spat out a mouthful of old blood. "What did you say?" Fabian smiled even more broadly. "Ivy has been the one controlling the shares of the Humphrey family all these years. Grandfather, you sold out the Humphrey family with your own hands." Old Mr. Humphrey instantly flew into a rage. "You bastard, get the shares back. That was the work of my entire life. How dare you give it all to the descendants of old Francis?" "Fabian, I should have killed Ivy back then too. Keeping that scourge has ruined my Humphrey family." Fabian felt old Mr. Humphrey's hatred toward the Francis family and toward Ivy. All these years, he had been blind to the truth, thinking the old man's dislike of Ivy was simply because Ivy was spoiled. The reason for the head's arrival was the grudges of their older generation. Fabian said, "Grandfather, stay in prison and pay with your life for my parents." The old man laughed heartily. "Fabian, that old thing from the Francis family was in a nursing home all along, and later, his death was also arranged by me." Fabian stiffened, his pained eyes filled with agony. Ivy, who was abroad. Ivy received a call from the domestic police. Her eyes were filled with tears. "My grandfather didn't die of illness, but was murdered." Old Francis's body was already in its final stages at that time. But according to the doctor's diagnosis, he could still hold on for 2 more years. Old Mr. Humphrey has admitted to killing old Francis, so the Francis family needs someone to come back to handle this matter. Ivy never imagined that her grandfather had been murdered. "My parents saw the news. Ivy, your mother and I will handle this. You don't need to go back." Ivy shook her head, her tearful eyes fixed on her parents. "All these years, it's been Grandpa taking care of me. And I'm going back too." Her grandfather did nothing wrong to the Humphrey family, yet the Francis family was brought to such a miserable state by the Humphrey family. Returning to City Y was already 2 days later. Ivy did not go to the police station with her parents. Instead, I went to the cemetery first. Grandpa, I regret it. I regret being with Fabian. I regret loving him. If I could start over, I would never give myself even the slightest chance to meet him. Hiding under a big tree in the distance, Fabian heard these words, and it pierced his heart with unbearable pain. He was certain that the Francis family would return for the old man's affairs, and he was also certain that Ivy would come to the cemetery. He waited for 3 days like the fool who waited by the stump for a hare. Until she finally appeared, Fabian gazed at Ivy with longing eyes. Though it had only been a month since she left, it felt to him like a lifetime had passed. In this 1 month, Ivy had lost a lot of weight, her face was pale, and despite the weather not being too cold, she was wrapped in a down jacket. Fabian's mind was filled with what Hugh had said. Fabian, Ivy's vitality has been severely damaged, her physical condition is very poor, so please, let her live well. Fabian felt a metallic taste of blood in his throat. He coughed. Not far away, Ivy turned her head. They gazed at each other from a distance. Fabian ran toward Ivy and pulled her tightly into his arms. His arm was exerting immense force, as if trying to merge Ivy into his very bones and blood. Ivy, I'm sorry. Chill. Ivy interrupted Fabian directly. She said in a flat tone, my mother and the others are still waiting for me at the police station. Fabian, let me go. Fabian swallowed back all the words he wanted to say to Ivy that were on the tip of his tongue. My grandfather killed your grandfather, and he will face legal consequences. Fabian suddenly felt weak, tears instantly moistening the corners of his eyes. If you want me to face legal consequences, I will turn myself in too. Ivy simply replied, Fabian, it's not necessary anymore. Ivy pushed Fabian away and headed toward the black car parked by the roadside in the distance. Once inside the car, she left the cemetery behind. Her assistant then told her, Ivy, there's been a car following us all along. Ivy knew who it was without turning around. She said calmly, don't mind it, just drive. On the way back to the city, Ivy saw that the billboards and screens along the roads of City Y were all displaying that same message. Ivy, I'm sorry, I know I was wrong, please forgive me. Ivy, I love you. Ivy, let's start over. When she left City Y a month ago, he publicly announced his relationship with Judy. Now, less than a month later, he's begging her. How ridiculous. Ivy returned to the hotel, but at the hotel entrance, she encountered Jordan. Jordan said in a magnetic voice, Fabian came looking for you at the hotel, but I had security not allow him in. Ivy said, thank you, President. Jordan, his eyes darkened as he said, Ivy, you can just call me by my name. We are classmates. After all, Ivy, the corners of her lips lifted slightly. I might have to trouble you these next few days. Jordan, no trouble at all. Fabian's car also pulled up at the hotel entrance. He got out of the car. Jordan's gaze was guarded. Ivy glanced back at Fabian behind her. Now, the Francis family and the Humphrey family have no relationship beyond being plaintiff and defendant. Mr. Fabian, let's meet in court. Francis House only has the lawyer pursue the death penalty for old Mr. Humphrey's murder case. No other sentence is acceptable. Fabian watched as Jordan and Ivy both left, but he was stopped outside the hotel, his heart aching so much he could hardly breathe. Suddenly, he understood the scene at the wedding dress shop, where Ivy stood high up, watching him and Judy hold their wedding ceremony. Just seeing Jordan and Ivy walking together tore his heart apart. Ivy, I'm sorry. 2 weeks later, the case of old Francis's murder was closed. Old Mr. Humphrey's prison sentence was extended. 3 lives, directly sentenced to death, to be executed immediately. Ivy read the report. Fabian, after collecting the old man's body, took 999 roses and stood outside Kenneth's family hotel, kneeling on one knee, begging for her forgiveness. Ivy didn't know why Fabian did this, nor did she know what happened between him and Judy. In such a short time, the love faded away. The reason behind it, Ivy didn't want to know. Fabian had been making a scene at the hotel entrance for several days, demanding to see her. City Y had too many reporters gathered to witness this spectacle. Kenneth's family hotel entrance was crowded with people every day. None of the 3 of them could go out to take a flight. Finally, Jordan suggested that they use the hotel rooftop helicopter pad. All 3 looked at Ivy. Ivy stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down, and could still see Fabian. Then he said calmly, okay. A helicopter left City Y, and closely following it was another helicopter in hot pursuit. Jordan's phone kept ringing. It was Fabian. Ivy said, answer it. Jordan handed the phone to Ivy. Ivy answered the call. Inside was Fabian's angry voice. Jordan, give Ivy back to me. The helicopter has landed. I want to see Ivy. Ivy, Fabian. Fabian's voice instantly choked up on the other end. Ivy, see me. don't leave me, Judy and I are already divorced, she and Grandpa deceived me. Ivy, just see me once. Ivy's eyes welled up, but she smiled faintly. Fabian. I don't care what happened between you and Judy, I just want to say, let's each take care of ourselves, stop chasing after me. Ivy, I can't live without you, I can explain everything to you. Ivy continued, Fabian, the moment I stopped loving you, any explanation no longer matters to me. Let's just end it here. Ivy, I love you. In Fabian's roar, Ivy hung up the phone. The helicopter behind them finally stopped pursuing. Beside her, Jordan looked at the crying Ivy. He wanted to hold her in his arms, but it seemed he couldn't. After some thought, I still explained what had happened over the past month. Judy has actually always been old Mr. Humphrey's woman. Fabian found out, later divorced Judy, and hired a few beggars to take revenge on Judy. Ivy looked at Jordan with tearful eyes and said, actually, you didn't have to say it, Jordan said in a low, somber voice, but I don't like you keeping it buried in your heart forever. The main reason Fabian betrayed you back then was that the old man told Fabian that the person who had been giving him blood transfusions all these years was Judy. Ivy pulled up her own sleeve with her fingers. The needle marks on the wrist had long since faded, but the pain remained. Her tears fell. Jordan, you know, I'm afraid of pain, but I'm even more afraid of Fabian dying. Now, I'm not afraid of either. How deep must love be, to make one disregard their own life just to save another? How utterly disappointed must one be, to completely erase from her life the person she loved with her very life? This time, it was her final farewell with Fabian. Fabian, for the rest of our lives, not seeing each other and not missing each other is the best outcome for us. Fabian watched as the helicopter carrying Ivy flew away. His helicopter landed on the lawn. For a long time, he didn't move. His crimson eyes were filled with pain. Ivy, in the end, she felt no explanation mattered anymore. That feeble tone was filled with utter disappointment and finality toward him. He hurt Ivy so deeply, yet Ivy didn't say a word, and the deepest revenge she took on him was to completely vanish from his world. Fabian fell ill, collapsing heavily. He was taken to the hospital. He was in critical care for 3 days and nights before he pulled through, and only one person came to see him. Ivan, he said, Fabian, the bridal shop where you and Judy held your wedding ceremony belongs to Ivy. Fabian was utterly desperate. Fabian pulled the needle out of the back of his hand. Blood kept flowing. He rushed to the wedding dress shop like a madman. The bridal shop was still in business. The owner was full of surprise when he saw him. Mr. Fabian, Fabian said. This place belongs to Ivy. The owner, however, said, it's mine now, Ms. Ivy sold it to me. The boss went in and handed a wedding dress catalog to Fabian. All of these are wedding dresses personally designed by Ms. Ivy. I believe you would like to see them. Fabian trembling hands turned to the first page. The pure white wedding dress was extremely beautiful, and beside it was a caption. He said, I'm like a jellyfish in the ocean, cute yet venomous. And that my dimples are lovely when I smile, but I want to give him a jellyfish-like wedding dress. The wedding dress design is inspired by the jellyfish, translucent, beautiful, and even more voluminous. Fabian flipped through them one by one. Each wedding dress came with a note, all about him. He made me angry today, saying I'm too fussy to eat chocolate. I want to give him a black wedding dress, covered entirely in chocolate, to sweeten him to death. He said my skin is too fair. It turns red at the slightest pinch, and he insisted I shouldn't show my collarbone. Alright then, today's wedding dress must be lace, covering me from head to toe, and he found Judy's wedding dress that she had worn. First love, this was his first kiss with me. I wanted to design it. He happened to have eaten strawberry candy, and I wanted to preserve this memory. The wedding dress was adorned with many rhinestones, representing the dots of strawberries. Giving the entire gown a touch of innocence, Fabian's tears fell on these wedding dress images. It turned out Ivy had always been loving him in her own way, and recording every bit of their moments together. Fabian sat in the wedding dress shop from morning to afternoon, then late into the night. And until the next day, he bought the bridal shop, every wedding dress Ivy designed. He saw, this is a girl's dream, but also a girl's overflowing love for him. Ivy, I'm sorry, I neglected you. Judy knew from the beginning that the bridal shop belonged to Ivy, which is why she brought him here. At first, she said it was a small place with niche brand wedding dresses, pretty and not too expensive. He admired Judy's frugal virtue, but in the end, it left Ivy utterly heartbroken. Judy, you really know how to wound the heart. Judy held his hand, each word piercing Ivy's heart like a deadly blade. Every single thing is the most painful for Ivy. He completely destroyed Judy. Even sent her to prison, tormenting Judy. But he would rather have Ivy come back to torment him, willing to pay any price. Fabian searched for Ivy for 5 years, traveling all over abroad, and he got the news about her from the front page headlines in the country. The heiress of the Francis family and the president of the Kenneth family's group, Jordan, will hold their wedding in 3 days at the Kenneth family's 7-star hotel. 20. Fabian never expected that he had searched for her abroad for 5 years, while Ivy had been in the country all along. Together with Jordan, Fabian rushed back by plane to City Y, which was already the next day. He went straight to the Kenneth family's corporation, barging into the CEO's office. Unexpectedly, the first person he saw was Ivy. His eyes reddened, and he immediately rushed over, pulling Ivy tightly into his arms. His entire body was trembling. Ivy, Ivy, I've finally found you. All these years, Fabian has been searching for her all over the world. Ivy knew, with this wedding being made public, Ivy had anticipated that Fabian would return. Fabian, this is my husband's office. Fabian stiffened, and he said angrily, no, I won't agree to you marrying anyone. You can only be mine. I've been searching for you for so long. Fabian, I was only abroad for a year. I've been in City Y for the past 4 years. Ivy looked at Fabian with coldness in her eyes. And she spoke calmly. Fabian exclaimed excitedly, it's okay, I'll be with you from now on. We'll always be together. I know you're angry with me, but Ivy, we've been together for a full 27 years. Ivy looked at the disheartened Fabian, a stark contrast to the spirited man he was 5 years ago. Ivy didn't know if Fabian had become like this because of losing the Humphrey family, or because of losing her. Ivy handed a card to Fabian. Over these 5 years, I've come to understand one thing. Fabian, here is 30 billion. The money I got from selling the shares of the Humphrey family. I'm returning it to you. We're even now. Fabian looked deathly pale. Ivy, I beg you to marry me again. But what Fabian received was a marriage certificate. On it were clearly written 2 names, Ivy and Jordan. Fabian coughed up blood, his crimson eyes fixed on the genuine marriage certificate. Ivy, I really didn't mean to. I love you, and I never imagined it was you who kept saving me. 5 years later, facing Fabian again, Ivy felt much calmer than she had imagined. Being with Jordan was approved by her parents. They got along naturally, not speaking of deep love, but it gave Ivy an immense sense of security. Perhaps all the love had been exhausted by Fabian. Ivy's hand touched Fabian's temple, where a few strands of white hair had already appeared. Fabian, I won't save you anymore from now on. Take care of yourself, and don't come looking for me everywhere. I will spend the rest of my life with Jordan. Ivy let go of her hand and looked at Jordan standing at the door. She headed towards Jordan. Fabian saw Ivy being held in the arms of Jordan. His Rose had finally entered another man's city. His mind was filled with the memory of their freshman year in college, when Jordan wrote a love letter to Ivy, which was seen by Fabian, who immediately confronted Jordan and got into a fierce fight with him. But Jordan sneered, Fabian, I will keep writing love letters to Ivy, unless you two get married. I still have the right to pursue Ivy. And Fabian fights with Jordan every time he sees a love letter. After graduating from college, he married Ivy, and Jordan went abroad. Fabian with reddened eyes, his voice hoarse. Ivy, I won't give up on you. Card Fabian didn't want it. Ivy and Jordan's wedding proceeded as planned. Ivy wore a snow-white wedding dress. Jordan dressed in a black suit. City Y's wealthy families had previously attended Ivy and Fabian's wedding. This time, Ivy was getting married again, but with a different groom. As the wedding began, 999 love letters were projected on the screen, and all the guests saw the date of the last love letter. It was from a year ago. Ivy, you finally said yes to my proposal. I'm so happy you're marrying me. I'll give you the most perfect love. Time began to rewind, and the guests saw the very first letter, dated 17 years ago. All the guests were astonished. This turned out to be a crush that lasted 17 years. Ivy looked at the time, her eyes full of disbelief. This is a love letter I never had the courage to send. Ivy, I think I've fallen for you, but you have Fabian by your side. And I can see the light in your eyes when you look at him. I know this can only be a secret crush. Ivy, dressed in a snow-white wedding gown, had tears in her eyes. She truly hadn't expected that Jordan had a crush on her since high school. With tearful eyes, she looked at Jordan. Just then, the urgent voice of the hotel security guard was heard. President Jordan, someone is threatening to jump off the roof of our hotel. It's Mr. Fabian. Ivy's hand trembled. She thought she had made it very clear to Fabian yesterday. Jordan looked at her. Ivy, I'll handle it. Ivy shook her head. Jordan, the wedding will proceed as scheduled. Just 20 minutes later. Okay. Jordan held her in his arms, speaking gently. I know you won't be okay if something happens to him. I'll wait for you. Ivy teared up. Though she no longer had the strength to love Jordan, she was willing to spend the rest of her life learning how to love him. Ivy arrived at the rooftop. Fabian was wearing the same white suit from their wedding day. even though 13 years had passed, Ivy recognized it at a glance. Fabian, do you want to die? Fabian's red eyes were filled with pain, standing at the edge of the top floor. Just one more step and he would fall from the 78th floor of Kenneth's home, shattered to pieces. Fabian said hoarsely, Ivy, without you, I can't go on even for a day. Ivy smiled through her tear-filled eyes and said, when I saw you kissing Judy at the airport, I felt the same way. I thought I might not live long without you. Fabian pleaded in agony, saying, Ivy, forgive me, I've spent every single day of these 5 years searching for you. If I had known you were in the country, I would have returned much sooner. Ivy laughed coldly. Fabian, did you go to the restaurant where we celebrated our anniversary every year? Fabian was taken aback. That restaurant is in the hotel at Kenneth's house. The first time they came here, Fabian did it to provoke Jordan, just to let Jordan know that he and Ivy were married and living well, but later it was because Ivy also liked it. Ivy said, Fabian, there is the last anniversary gift I gave you 7 years ago. Go get it. Jordan is still waiting for me. The 30 billion is returned to you. From now on, we owe each other nothing, and we should no longer think of each other. Ivy, in her wedding dress, left, just like that time in the hospital. Even if Fabian died before her eyes, she would never look back. Fabian went to the restaurant and urgently asked the manager to bring out the gift. The restaurant manager handed a frozen box to Fabian. Mr. Fabian, this is what Ivy said 5 years ago to give to you if you ever came. Fabian opened it with trembling hands, and when he saw the hospital packaging, he suddenly realized what it was. Opening it revealed a pool of blood and water, 2 small things mangled beyond recognition. Fabian cried out in agony. At this moment, he finally understood why Ivy would not forgive him. The 2 lives of the children lay between him and Ivy. In this lifetime, Ivy will never forgive him. And now, at the wedding venue, Jordan held Ivy's hand to begin the wedding ceremony. A wedding, with 999 love letters, shocked the entire nation of Zed. This 17-year-long unrequited love was also known to everyone. On the wedding night, Ivy received the news that Fabian had donated all 30 billion to the children's fund under Kenneth's family. Then a kiss landed on the tip of his brow. Yes, honey. Upon hearing this address, Jordan's kiss landed on Ivy's lips. Ivy, no matter how unwilling Fabian is to let go, I will never release your hand. Ivy's eyes sparkled with a smile. I will learn to love you. That night, Fabian jumped from the original Humphrey family building. The next day, there was news everywhere about Fabian's suicide. Ivy dared not look at the bloody scene. Later, it was Jordan who handled Fabian's funeral arrangements, and the front page headlines across the city were all about Fabian's death. There was also a reason that no one knew about. Fabian was holding a bright red rose in his hand when he died, and Ivy recalled a memory from when she was 15. Fabian, what flower do you think I resemble? The girl leaned her face closer. Just as the boy lifted his gaze, his eyes slightly curved, his eyes were filled with her, and he smiled, pointing to the potted plant the girl had just placed nearby. There was a hint of teasing in the tone. Then, Ivy is the crimson rose, both delicate and prickly, and only I can keep her. Ivy turned to look at the roses Jordan had placed in the distance that morning, tears streaming down her face.